What is up, everybody? With the day of gameplay recording quickly approaching, I thought what better video to give to you guys than the deck tech for the deck I'm going to be running in our first official gameplay video. Outside of that, though, Teval, the Balanced Scale, is like an incredibly popular commander, so I thought giving you guys my take on it might be useful. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the gameplay video, and let's jump into the deck. So first, we're going to want to talk about Teval, the Balanced Scale. Teval is 1, a black, a green, and a blue for a 4/4 flying. Whenever Teval attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. So this Teval Reanimator list that I've built for myself is incredibly powerful. It's my favorite deck to be playing at the moment. With Teval having built-in evasion, a way to fill our graveyard, as well as return a land into play tapped, which will trigger her second ability. She is the engine and the payoff, and we just plug a Reanimator strategy into that, and the outcome is incredibly powerful. Being able to recur giant threats that absolutely warp the game, as well as creating passive 2/2 black zombie druids with Teval to help us defend, as well as have a go wide strategy if needed. Being the resident Reanimator pro, I think a top-down delivery of this deck tech is going to be the best way to do that. What do I mean by that? I mean, we're going to talk about the fat creatures we're trying to cheat into play first, and we will work our way back from there. River Kelpie is a 3 and 2 blue 3/3 that lets us draw a card whenever this creature or another permanent enters from a graveyard. Yeah, doesn't matter who's doing it, we draw a card. And whenever a player casts a spell from a graveyard, we draw a card. And it has persist. So when it ETBs from the grave, draw a card. When it dies, it persists, draw you another card. Whenever we reanimate anything, draw a card. Whenever anybody else reanimates anything, draw a card. Sir Conrad being a 3 and 2 black 5/4 that will ping someone when a creature dies, or when a creature's put into graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard. Yeah, it pings for like anything in graveyard decks happening. And it also just has a mill engine for 1 and a black. Each player mills a card. Can't go wrong there. The Scarab God is another fantastic one in this deck, being 3, a blue, and a black for a 5/5. That will drain each opponent and scry us X, where X is the number of zombies we control, and when Teval is making 2/2 zombie druids, this can be really good. It's also got 2, a blue and a black, to exile a creature from any graveyard and create a 4/4 black zombie, which again is making something leave graveyard, which will trigger Teval. And of course, it's got the whole god thing that when it dies, it returns back at the beginning of the next end step, making this creature a very good reanimation target in the deck. We've also got Bane of Progress being a 4 and 2 green 2/2 that will wipe the board of all artifacts and enchantments and get a 1/1 counter for each permanent destroyed this way, making it a giant threat and also just a board wipe that we can reanimate, which is nice. Calidus Assassin is another great one, being 4, a black, and a blue for a 3/3 flash. You can have it enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it has, when this creature enters, destroy up to 1 target creature with the same name as this creature. So not only do we get a copy clone at flash speed, it also destroys the thing that it's copying. It's pretty much duplicate, except it has flash. Essex Fractal Bloom is one of my personal pet cards in this deck. I just really like it, being 4, a green and a blue for a 4/4 flying. The first time you would create 1 or more tokens during each of your turns, you may instead choose a creature other than Essex Fractal Bloom and create that many tokens that are copies of that creature. So pretty much the first time our commander triggers, that 2/2 zombie just enters as a copy of anything on board. I think that's really, really strong. And in a Reanimator deck, we can get this out very early. Butcher of Malakar is a card that you guys heavily pushed on the live stream, and I can tell you I've played with it a few times, and it's an absolute monster in this deck, being 5 and 2 black for a 5/4 flying. When it or another creature we control dies, each opponent sacks a creature. So it is a Grave Pact on a big 5/4 flyer. And again, when you're a Reanimation deck, we don't really care that it's 7 mana. Mana cost doesn't matter. Another great reanimation target is Archon of Cruelty, being 6 and 2 black for a 6/6 flying. When it enters or attacks, target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, loses 3 life, you draw a card, and you gain 3 life. That's a lot of stuff. It's just powerful. And again, we're going to get this out early enough that it's going to soak up some removal spells, and if those removal spells are board wipes or destroy effects, you better bet we're going to get it back. One of my personal favorite cards in the deck is Colossal Grave Reaver out of the same precon that Teval is in, being 6, a black and a green for a 7/6 flying. When it enters or attacks, we love that, mill 3 cards. And whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from the library, put one of them onto the battlefield. Yeah, every time we mill a creature, we're going to go ahead and stick one of those on the battlefield. So every time we swing with Teval and mill 3 cards and return a land tapped, we're probably going to hit a creature and just get a free creature as well as a free land as well as a 2/2 black zombie. Yeah, it gets pretty gross. And finally, for our reanimation targets, my most recent pickup, Valgavoth Terror Eater, being 6 and 3 black for a 9/9 flying lifelink ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana cost rather than its mana cost. Yeah, all your opponent's stuff you get to just cast by paying life. Yeah, I think that'll just win you the game. I really don't mind paying life if I'm gonna, win the game. Definitely a powerhouse to reanimate as quickly as possible. So now that we know what we're trying to get back from grave, I think a perfect follow-up to that would be, how do we plan to get that stuff in grave? So, well, let me tell you. The deck has a pretty good fill the grave package, or self-mill package, if you want to call it that, with tons of ways to absolutely jam-pack our graveyard full of reanimation targets and full of lands for our Teval to get back, as well as tons of synergy. Starting things off for this, we've got Tekanuma Abandon Mire. This is great as, if you can get any effect in your deck stapled onto a land, that's always good. Tekanuma is essentially just a swamp. It enters untapped, taps for a swamp, but it's also got Channel for 3 and a black. It costs 1 less for each legendary creature we control. Mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. So self-mill, but it also returns something, which will trigger Teval. This land is amazing in this deck. Of course, we've got Aftermath Analyst being one of the most powerful uncommons that's been printed in a while. 1 and a green for a 1/3 that mills you 3 cards on ETB. You can pay 3 and a green to sacrifice it and return all land cards from your graveyard into play tapped. Self-mill, a good way to get a ton of lands into play, as well as trigger Teval when you get said lands into play. Seems good. My voice is getting hoarse. Let daddy pop in a piece of gum. Aftermath Analyst, fantastic card. Altar of Dementia is fantastic, being a 2-drop artifact that lets us sack our creatures to have target player mill that many cards equal to that creature's power, which essentially just turns our 2/2s from Teval into grave fill, which, is always good. Corpse Churn is a classic, being 1 and a black, instant speed. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a good time to bring up that cards like Grisly Salvage aren't very good in this deck because they don't mill first before you get the card back, while cards like Corpse Churn do very similar effects to Grisly Salvage while also triggering Teval, which, obviously important. Ledger Shredder is a great way to fill the graveyard because it connives every time a player casts their second spell, which happens all the time, so any fat stuff we have in hand, we just ditch. Very good. Of course, we're running Life from the Loam, being 1 and a green, sorcery, return 3 lands from your graveyard to hand, which will trigger Teval, but it's also got Dredge 3, so if you've got this in your hand, just drop it turn 2, get some early dredges in, then play it again, get some lands back. Make sure you guarantee hit your land drops, also your filling graveyard. Incredibly powerful card. Oh, I'm not talking about Life from the Loam. I'm talking about Perpetual Timepiece. Being 2 colorless for an artifact, tap it, put 2 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard, tap it, mill 2 cards, or pay 2 to exile it, and shuffle any number of target cards from your graveyard into your library. 1, this is really good self-mill, but also the second ability will trigger Teval. It'll make sure we're not milling ourselves too deep, and it'll also interact really good with Sir Conrad, giving us a ton of pings if we just return a bunch of creatures from our graveyard back into our deck. Ripples of Undeath is one of my favorite cards in the deck. I bought this when it was a lot cheaper, shot up in price. No brag or anything. For 1 and a black, we get an enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those cards into your hand. Do you want a Phyrexian Arena that costs 1 less mana and you don't have to draw the card? It guarantees mills you 3 cards and you get to cherry pick the best of those 3 cards for the extra card you draw for an exchange of 1 mana and 3 life. I stopped listening after Do You Want a Phyrexian Arena but cheaper that mills? Yes. Barrogoyf is another recent pickup that has been fantastic, being 2 and a black for a star. For a star, 1+ star, Death Touch lifelink. Barrogoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. So most of the time, this thing's sitting at like a 4/5, 5/6. And whenever Barrogoyf deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you may put a creature card from among them into your hand. This card has been amazing. People block, you gain a bunch of life, and they lose the thing they block with. If they just take it, which they do a lot of the time, you mill a ton of cards, which in a Reanimator deck is great, while also returning a creature to your hand with a bunch of small CMC utility creatures in this deck can also be great, as well as triggering Teval. Speaking of house, the deck also runs Grist the Hunger Tide, which will fill the house with termites. Being 1, a black and a green for a 3 loyalty planeswalker that acts as if it's a 1/1 insect creature when it's anywhere other than the battlefield. It has a +1 to mill us a card and create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token. If the milled card was an insect, you repeat the process. Someone is running this in the $50 budget league that I'm a part of, and let me just say, the deck's pretty gross. I immediately sent him my deck list, and I was like, any suggestions? While also acting as removal with its -2 to sack a creature and then destroy target creature, which you can sack the zombies Teval makes to use this, or you could possibly sack something with a powerful ETB like Colossal Grave Reaver to then reanimate it with something to get the ETB while also removing something with Grist. The deck also runs Head Shredder, being 2 and 2 green for a 5/5 vehicle that crews for 1. When it attacks, you may mill 2 cards, but the important part is whenever 1 or more land cards are put into our graveyard from the library, we put them into play tapped. So all the lands we mill, just cut out the middleman of having to sack our Aftermath Analyst. We'll just put them directly into play. Thanks. I also recently picked up a monster manual, which has been really good. Being 3 and a green for an artifact that pretty much just lets you Elvish Piper a creature from your hand into play if you pay 1 and a green and tap it. But the adventure side that you can cast before that is 2 and a green to mill 5 cards, then return a creature card milled this way into our hand. And that's a very sizable amount of cards in grave for 3 mana. So yeah, I love this thing. Sidisi Brood Tyrant, or if you want to call her OG Teval, that works too, is 1, a black, a green, and a blue for a 3/3. When it enters or attacks, mill 3 cards, and whenever 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So yeah, with this and Teval in play, you're making zombies for milling them and for resurrecting them, which, yeah, is going to interact great in the deck. Incarnation Technique is 4 and a black for a sorcery with Demonstrate, which means you can let an opponent copy it, and if they do, you get an additional copy as well. So an opponent gets to do it once, you get to do it twice. And what it is mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, yeah, we're in the graveyard deck. This is just going to be better for us. I wasn't sure how I felt about this card, and I've played it multiple times, and I can easily tell you this is a cracked powerhouse of a card in Reanimator. Pick one up if you've got Reanimator decks. Very good. And of course, we've got the previously talked about Sir Conrad, as he has a 1 and a black, each player mills a card, and the previously talked about Colossal Grave Reaver, which has a mill 3 cards on attack and ETB. So now that we know that the deck's goal is to be milling all of the Volgavos and the Colossal Grave Reavers into our graveyard with cards like Ripples of Undeath or Aftermath Analyst, I think a good follow-up from there is how do we plan to utilize those things in our graveyard? Well, let's get into the Recursion package. We already talked about Takenuma being able to return a creature from our graveyard to hand. The deck also runs Phyrexian Reclamation, being 1 black for an enchantment. For 1 and a black, we can pay 2 life and return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand, which will trigger Teval each time we do that, as well as being incredibly powerful with cards like Aftermath Analyst that we discussed earlier. Of course, the deck runs Reanimate, being 1 black for a sorcery that will put target creature card from any graveyard into play under our control, and all we have to do is lose life equal to its mana value. I'm fine with that. Tortured Existence is a great piece of recursion, but more importantly than that, goes infinite with Teval. We'll get into that later. For 1 black, for an enchantment, we can pay 1, choose and discard a creature card to return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand. So, ditch one of our really big creatures to get one of our little utility creatures like, Aftermath Analyst. Seems good. Of course, the deck runs Animate Dead, which is 1 and a black for an enchantment aura that I'm not going to read all that. It just recurs anything into play under our control and gives it -1/-0, and if they remove the enchantment, the creature's gone. We already talked about Corpse Churn being able to mill us and return a creature from our graveyard to our hand. The deck, of course, runs Dance of the Dead as well, being 1 and a black for, I'm not going to read that. It returns something into play with a +1/+1 counter, and it's tapped, and you have to pay 1 and a black to untap it. We talked about Life from the Loam being able to return lands, as well as Ripples of Undeath being able to return anything that it mills, as well as Barrogoyf being able to return something it mills when it makes contact. The deck also runs Eternal Witness, which is a great way to get back some of the non-creature cards that we've accidentally milled, as well as Necromancy being 2 and a black for, again, I'm not going to read that, it just returns something into play under our control, and if they get rid of Necromancy, the creature's gone, or you can cast it at flash speed to just sack the creature at the beginning of the next cleanup step. The deck also runs Victimize, which is 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 2 target creatures in your graveyard, sack a creature. If you do, return the chosen creatures to the battlefield tapped. So sack a creature to get 2 creatures back? Oh, if only we had a constant stream of small fodder type token creatures. Yeah, we have plenty of zombies. This is great. Dread Return is another one that I wasn't sure of until I played with it, and it is insane in this deck. Being 2 and 2 black for a sorcery speed, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with flashback, sack 3 creatures. Because you play this, get a big creature back, trigger Teval to make a 2/2 zombie. A lot of the time when you do that, you have multiple zombies in play anyway, which will probably give you enough to activate the flashback, crack those zombies, get another big thing into play, make another zombie. Really good. And to finish it off, we talked about Head Shredder being able to return lands, we talked about Monster Manual being able to return creatures, and we talked about Scarab God being able to return creatures. Of course, we need some ways to protect Teval because she is such a crucial, important, and more importantly, powerful engine that we can have in play. So we run some cards like Delighted Halfling to make sure that she doesn't get countered, Revitalizing Repass to give her indestructible at instant speed, Heroic Intervention to give our whole board indestructible and hexproof at instant speed, Lightning Greaves to give her haste and shroud, as well as Agassar Rex, which works incredible in this deck, being an 8/8 trample for 5, but we can cycle it for 2 and a green to draw a card and put 2/1/1 counters on a creature, give it trample, and indestructible until end of turn. So yeah, someone tries to kill our commander, we just cycle Agassar, and not only did we protect our commander while making it a 6/6 flyer now, we also put an 8/8 trample into our graveyard, which, wouldn't you know it, we're a Reanimator deck. Very nice. The deck runs 13 pieces of card draw, those being Kishla's Skimmer, which draws us a card whenever anything leaves our graveyard, Ledger Shredder, which isn't really card draw because we're not netting card advantage, but it will help you dig through your deck fast enough to find card draw, so it really does feel like card draw, so I put it here. Priest of Forgotten Gods can sack our zombies to have opponents sack a creature, add us 2 mana, and draw us a card. We've already talked about Ripples of Undeath. Satro the Infiltrator will draw us a card whenever a creature ETBs if it wasn't cast and no mana was spent to cast it, aka whenever we reanimate. Braids will turn our end step into every opponent having to sack a creature, and if they can't, we, draw a card. Egon, God of Death's backside, the Throne of Death, will let us pay 2 and a black, exile a creature card from our graveyard to draw a card, which, also triggers Teval. Very good. Palantir of Ornthanc is a very powerful artifact, being 3 colorless, and at the beginning of our end step, we put an influence counter on it, scry 2, then target opponent may have us draw a card. If they don't, we mill X cards where X is the number of influence counters on it, and deal damage to that player equal to the total mana value of those cards. So, this card's going to be drawing you a lot of cards. Maybe on the first, second, maybe third even counter, people are probably going to just have you mill. But who knows, you're in a Reanimator deck and you scry 2 before that, so you could just be setting a really powerful, huge CMC like Valgavoth on top, and they're going to take 9 to the dome. This card's really fun to play mind games with people, and most of the time, it's just a 3 mana artifact that draws you a card on your end step. That scries you 2 and draws you a card on your end step. Very good. Teval's Judgment is fantastic card draw for 2 and a black as an enchantment. Whenever one or more cards leaves our graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen, draw a card, create a treasure token, or create a 2/2 black zombie druid. So, doubling as mana ramp and card draw, and just another way to make 2/2 zombies. Clearly, Teval's Judgment is going to be amazing in Teval. Erebos the Bleak-Hearted is another sack outlet that is fantastic at drawing us cards, being 3 and a black for a 5/6 indestructible that turns on if our devotion to black is 5 or higher, and whenever another creature we control dies, we may pay 2 and draw a card, and we can pay 1 and a black, sack a creature, target creature gets -2/-1. So, great way to take out some annoying small utility creatures our opponents may have, as well as turn our zombies into card draw. The deck also runs Guardian Project, which turns all of our non-token ETBs into card draw. We've talked about River Kelpie, and the deck runs Tatiova, as she turns each of our landfalls into a card draw, and with Teval returning a land, and that land she returns being any land, we can easily have that pop off and draw us a ton of cards each turn with Tatiova. As far as ramp is concerned, the deck runs 13 pieces, those being Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling, Insidious Fungus, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Armored Scrapgorger, Cryptolith Rite, Liquimetal Torque, Priest of Forgotten Gods, Sakura Tribe Elder, Ashnod's Altar, Teval's Judgment, and Kuru Goldkeeper, which leads us into the infinite combo I was talking about earlier. If you combine Teval, Kuru Goldkeeper, and Tortured Existence with a creature card in hand and a creature card in graveyard, you can get infinite 2/2 zombies with Teval. It's really simple. You have Teval in play, you have Tortured Existence in play, and you have Kuru Goldkeeper in play. You use Tortured Existence's 1 black to discard a creature card in your hand, and return a creature card from your grave to your hand. When that creature card from grave leaves the grave to go to your hand, that will trigger Teval to make you a 2/2, as well as triggering Kuru Goldkeeper to make you a treasure token. You can then use that treasure token to sack it, add a black, activate Tortured Existence to discard the creature you just got back from grave, to return the creature you just discarded to get that creature back, and repeat this process infinitely until you get the desired amount of 2/2 zombies in play. The deck also runs 9 pieces of removal, that being An Offer You Can't Refuse, Insidious Fungus, Counterspell, Grist the Hunger Tide, Maelstrom Pulse, Reclamation Sage, Sink into Stupor, Fell the Profane, and Calidus Assassin. We've also got 2 pieces of board interaction, that being Toxic Deluge and Bane of Progress, as well as 2 tutors in the deck, those being Traverse the Uvenwald and Beseech the Mirror. The deck runs 37 lands, with a few of them that I want to highlight for you guys. The first one being the Great Arishan City, being a land that enters tapped unless you control a forest or a plains, which a lot of the time we control a forest. It can tap for a black, or it can pay 1 and a black, tap, exile a creature card from your graveyard, and create a 1/1 white spirit token. So, on a land, a way to just like exile some smaller creatures we don't need in grave, to make 1/1s will not only be another good way to add to the go wide thing or just have more sack outlet pieces for our stuff like Priest of Forgotten Gods, but also exiling a creature from our graveyard will trigger Teval. So this is essentially 1 and a black, tap, exile a creature card from your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie from Teval, and create a 1/1 white spirit creature token from this, which I think is pretty useful in a lot of case scenarios. The next land I want to talk about is High Market, being a land, being a land that can tap for a colorless or tap to sack a creature and gain us 1 life. Again, just sacking stuff is useful in a reanimator deck. Sack one of our big things with an ETB, reanimate it, get the ETB again. I always like that play. Some games that 1 life will save you, dude. Who knows? Just having a sack outlet on a land in a graveyard deck is going to be useful. And then finally, the last land I want to talk about is Spymaster's Vault, being a land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp, which again, a lot of the time we control a swamp. We can tap it for a black, or we can tap a black and tap it to have target creature we control connive X, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. Yeah, this card's like 98 cents, by the way. I think you should pick this up. I think Spymaster's Vault is very powerful. Just my opinion. And with that, that wraps up our Teval the Balanced Scale list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It kind of shocked me that Teval was like the #1 built commander this month on EDH Rec. I normally am not fond of like very mainstream commanders. This is one that apparently lined up for all of us. So this is a strategy I'm very familiar with. I love Reanimator, so this deck is definitely powerful. You could definitely sit with this deck at most tables and stand your own. It's my favorite deck to be playing right now. So let me know down below how you enjoyed the deck. If there's anything I should be running, maybe you don't like as much in this deck and I might consider taking out. If you want to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that stuff, It's greatly appreciated. Feel free to join the Discord. It's free. We got like over 250 people talking about Magic over there, as well as consider using our TCG Player affiliate link if you want to buy any of the cards we talked about. You can also find the Patreon link down below. For as low as $1, you can really help support me as a creator and help get some more high-quality videos like this out to you guys. Again, this is the deck I'm going to be playing on the first gameplay video. Much love, guys. I'm going to stop yapping, get out of your hair. I'll see you guys next time.